There it is.
All right,
We're
folks.
there. Here we are.
Here we are. Something we've wanted to do for, I don't know, last 13 episodes, 12
Since we
episodes.
started, yeah.
Since we started, exactly.
That's a good way to put it.
Yeah. So now you know what we look like. I'm Brad.
And I'm Shane.
We just got out of makeup.
We did. Like our
Costuming.
tuxes.
Yeah. So I hope we look good. Hope you guys like our appearance. Anyway, Shane,
Let's
let's get
just
past
start.
the nonsense. And yeah, what are we talking about today?
We are talking about overcoming challenges and how important that is.
Overcoming challenges. Okay.
And how do you overcome challenges, Brad?
I think it depends. I think we all overcome challenges different ways. I know for me, overcoming challenges, small challenges, sometimes I just beat them into submission and I just move forward.
Okay.
Other challenges, I have to dissect. And it takes a little while to actually understand what it is I'm trying to accomplish. I've got a current challenge that I'm working on, and it's something that's being asked of me, and I'm not really certain exactly what the ask is. The ask is very simple, but it doesn't make sense to me, I guess is what I'm saying.
Okay.
So it takes me a little while to like dissect what the challenge actually is, and that may take a little while. And I think the reason why we want to talk about this today is because sometimes it may seem like as we're working through these challenges, we're not accomplishing anything. Like we're not making any progress, and then we begin to have doubt, and then we begin to have negative thoughts. And so this is kind of a lot of the things that we've been talking about is, when you face some of these challenges, start trying to do some of the things that, we've talked about in previous episodes. And some of those things are, what exactly am I trying to solve? What is the big picture here? And that's kind of the current thing that I'm working through, is kind of how I approach that. And that's what I mean by dissecting, taking it apart and saying, hey, is there something bigger here that I'm trying to solve for? And if there is something bigger that you're trying to solve for, now you know what the story is behind, what you're trying to accomplish. And then you can begin to work backwards. You can begin to define things. And then as you define things, you can begin to put all the puzzle pieces together. And then for me, those types of things kind of just come together eventually. That's what I mean by have patience, have time, let the process work. Because I definitely know that in this challenge that I've been presented, and there's definitely been times where I've thought to myself that there's no way, I don't know how to solve this. I don't know. I've got to go to others. I go to others. Others are not really sure. It's really my responsibility to solve it. So then I may start having doubts. How do I overcome those doubts? How do I overcome those challenges? We've talked a lot about meditation, meditating on these things. Thinking about what it is we're trying to solve, and just take it one step at a time.
I think you said it right. I think the first step, though, really in any challenge, is understanding what the challenge is and having a clear definition. And that's one of the things, like you're saying, really difficult problems are often very difficult because it's required or asked of us in such a simple way. Right, and so we just don't even know where to begin. So I think you're right. I think having a really clear understanding of what the issues are and understanding why the problem is so complex is a crucial first step.
Right.
I think another key element in being able to overcome challenges as well is developing a special virtue, and that virtue is perseverance.
Right.
So I don't know if I've said this on the podcast before, but I work as a software engineer, and it's interesting how the different careers that you end up in and the things that you end up doing, God uses those to teach you a lot of lessons. One of the lessons I feel like that being a software engineer has given me, or has I guess blessed me with, is the opportunity to persevere and grow in that. You're constantly presented with challenges all the time. It's like, I have no idea how to solve this problem or how to write this piece of code. And you just have to stick with it. I mean, there'll be days, man, where I'll have like a problem I need to solve that could take, like in one particular day, it might, take up to 6 hours of trying all different ways to overcome.
Yep.
And it just, you still don't get anywhere. I had this one, with that wealth conditioner application I created, there was one piece of functionality I was trying to add that the issue probably totaled up to around like 12 hours to solve, like of straight thinking. And like, typically the result comes in like, 5 minutes or so,
Yep.
A couple of changes, but it's necessary to, I think, have the attitude that whenever you approach these challenges that we have, like knowing that they are going to get solved. I think you have to go into it with that kind of an attitude. Otherwise, it makes it just way too easy to give up and let it go.
Yeah, exactly, and that's kind of where I was going with what I was saying. You can definitely get discouraged along the way, because I know for this things in my past and things that I'm currently working on now trying to solve. I know that I'll solve the problem. That's really never in doubt for me. It's all of the roadblocks and all of the potholes and all those things that I hit along the way, and then I start having doubt. Should I be the one solving this? I'm not sure if I'm qualified. I think maybe somebody else should be looking into this.
Why do you think that pops up? Sorry to cut you off, but why do you think those questions come into our mind? I mean, I know we're doubting, but why do we let ourselves entertain thoughts like that, do you think?
So it's a good question. It's an interesting question. I'm not sure why it happens. I don't know. Do you have an answer?
I don't know either, to be honest. I mean, I'm like genuinely interested in exploring this. I think they come from, I think anytime we as human beings, and I'm just talking here, I'm just kind of exploring here, but I think we as human beings, whenever we approach things or areas of our life that add a lot of stress or strain, maybe it's like a defense mechanism, right? That our brain seeks to protect us from that strain or that effort. Maybe because it can cause harm. I'm not saying all the time, but I'm just saying prolonged, duration of strain and stress without believing in a possible good outcome. Maybe it's just all these doubts flood in as a mechanism to help us avoid that struggle. So maybe that's why if you don't have a really clear belief that you'll get through it and that there's a really clear benefit to solving this problem, unless that's there, I think it just makes it too easy for these flood of negative emotions and thoughts to derail us.
Yeah, I'm trying to come up with some sort of an answer. I definitely think that's the challenge in the challenge, right? Is overcoming those types of things. I think it's like working out. If you want to start a workout regimen, I just started the book, The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Beep, by what's his name, Mark Manson. And so
you gotta let me know how that is.
Yeah, it's really interesting. I don't even want to get into it because it's a lot of things the opposite of what we talk about here on this podcast. But it's really interesting because he does talk about in the first or second chapter about how solving problems create more problems. So if you think about trying to get to the gym, because you want to lose weight or whatever, you get to the gym and now it's now you've created all these other problems for yourself. Well, what do I do? How do I do it? How much do I lift? Do I run on the elliptical? And then after you figure all that out, then you've created another set of problems. Oh my gosh, how am I going to get to the gym on time? Am I going to continuously do this over and over? So yeah, it's a good question, Shane. Maybe we should dig deeper into this and come back and see what everyone says about it and let everyone know. But I think it's one of those things. It's even like working out or just doing those types of tasks. We definitely say, it's too heavy. oh, I can't do that, but it's perseverance, like you said.
Sure.
It's having the ability to push through. It's like, break on through, to the other side,
Break on through.
Sing it, Shane.
Old Jimmy. Maybe
Yeah.
I'll sing some Jim Morrison for.
Sounds good. Hey, we're still looking for that intro and that outro. Now that we're doing the video version,
what do you think my challenge is? My 30-day challenge? No, it's just I want it to be right. I don't want it to just like. I don't want to just give it out. It's not the moment, right?
Yeah. Well,
it's got to be the moment. So I didn't mean to derail you. Let's
no,
get
you're
back.
fine.
Let's
You're
get back
fine.
to our
You're
topic.
fine. You're fine. Yeah. So it's a very good question. I'm not sure why doubt comes into our minds and why we doubt ourselves. But I think it's just that our brain is a muscle. So what I was trying to do is kind of parallel it to working out. You're going to try to push weights. You're going to hate it. You're not going to be in love with it. But you just have to keep telling yourself, this is what I want. This is how I'm going to do. And eventually your mind follows. Because your mind definitely is trying to take control. And you need to take control of your mind. So I think it's the same way in trying to solve mental problems. And that's kind of what we're talking about, our mental challenges. Mental challenges are the same way. You have to have perseverance. You have to know what your end goal is in mind. You have to continue to revisit that.
Yep.
And I think that's a lot of what Napoleon Hill talks about in his book is, looking at this day in and day out, writing it down, saying it out loud, doing those sorts of things are the things that's giving you the courage to continue to push through, that you will overcome this. You will get to where you see yourself. So I think that's a lot of the things that you have to do to kind of overcome those challenges.
And I think something really practical you can do to kind of put yourself in the right mindset for overcoming challenges is, I think at a really fundamental level, how we look at it, right? Do you see it as a problem or do you see it as an opportunity? I think it literally is that simple for like training your brain to see things. To me, when I hear the word challenge or problem or something like that, it takes me back to school, right? Like I'm getting ready to take a test. I have homework. I have a problem to solve. It's like something that got in the way of me going and riding my bike or playing Ultimate Mortal Kombat 3 on Sega Saturn, which I was really good with Cyrax, by the way.
You were Sega guy?
Yeah. Sega! Yeah. Sega Saturn.
Okay. So
big difference.
Sega Saturn. Big difference.
But anyway, Brad, no, so I mean that's what it takes me back to when I hear the word challenge and problem. But so what I found is when I start seeing these issues, right, as opportunities, and these are chances for me to grow mentally and expand my skill sets. It tends to add a little bit more excitement during the approach, right? I tend to be more excited to to meet an opportunity rather than to solve a problem. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So and I think that attitude adjustment, just at that fundamental level, gives us enough to at least persevere for probably a lot longer than we normally would have. So I think that's something really, really practical that we can do. And there's a lot of, I think, techniques that people can employ to, they start approaching these opportunities with from like different angles, and we can teach ourselves to think more creatively to solve problems. I've been really getting into this guy. Have you ever heard of Dr. Edward de Bono? You ever heard of him?
I've heard you mention him, but no, I haven't.
So, and I just bought a few of his popular books, but I believe he's a psychologist.
Okay.
I'll have to get back to you on that. But like his whole thing is just how we think. I mean, that's like his area of study, and so he's known as the father of lateral thinking. And so it's a pretty interesting concept, right? Like lateral thinking can also be looked at as creative thinking. It's taking like these challenges or problems or things that like kind of vex us, right? Or even just like regular things that we deal with every day, and looking at them in a new, like, creative light. So for example, a really great exercise to kind of expand your ability to think creatively is this is something I try to do each morning.
Mm-hmm.
But as I try to take two things that are completely unrelated, seemingly, right? That have like no business being with each other. Like I have like you could take the concept of, here we can do a little exercise right now.
Okay.
Earrings, right? Just earrings, what you wear, and like a suitcase.
Okay.
So how can you so try to come up with 10 ideas that you could combine those
Mm-hmm.
and make money from it, or like come up with a business plan or a product or something where you can take the concept of earrings and the concept of a suitcase and come up with something that will generate money. These are things that you normally wouldn't put together. So like the first thing that we tend to do as human beings, and like in exercises like this, is we look at the most obvious choices, right? That's vertical thinking. We like kind of combine them together. It's like,
Mm-hmm.
okay, I can have a suitcase that holds earrings.
So is this what this psychiatrist is saying, or is this what you're saying?
So it's the same. It's the same idea. It's taking a problem. So in this case, like, how
Okay.
can I take these two unrelated things?
Yeah, because I know you and
make
I
something
do a
out
lot
of
of
it?
that stuff.
Yeah.
That's what we do when we have coffee at Starbucks. We solve these types of problems. We talk about this sort of thing, right? So
Yeah.
I think you even created like a noun or name generator. or
Yeah, it's
something
just like this
that.
idea generator.
Yeah.
It just combines two
Yeah,
things.
which is really
and-
neat. It's
Yeah.
just looking at ideas from a different perspective. We're
Yeah.
so trained in saying, nope, this works because of this reason, and here's all the reasons why your answers to this problem would not work, because it's a problem everyone's tried to solve, and this has been around since the dinosaurs were
Yep.
here on Earth. So let's not look at it any other way. It's flipping that on its head. It's doing a 180. It's just shaking it up and just saying, no. Let's just look at this from all different angles and perspectives.
And the idea is to, when you're when you're learning how to think creatively. So in the example of like combining two nouns or whatever, or
Mhm.
just like looking at like a problem, or not even a problem necessarily, but like a situation, right? That like is common to our lives that we just don't think twice about.
Yep.
It's the magic of creative thinking is having a mind that sees possibilities in things, right?
Yeah.
So, like, for example, what Edward de Bono was talking about in a lecture he gave is he was talking to like 500 like ecologists or something like
Okay.
something along, environmentalists in California at a time. I believe it was California. But anyway, a big issue that they were having is dealing with pollution caused by factories that existed like on rivers. So they would produce their materials, and the pollution would get dumped in the river and then float downstream.
Well, duh. That's
Yeah.
why they're on the river.
That's right. So they don't have to deal with it. No, but that's it.
How do we solve this problem?
No, yeah. So that's what they did. They're like, this is a huge issue for us. It's causing all kinds of problems for people. So what he put on his creative thinking hat, and what he said is, okay, so why don't you make it to where your factory is downstream from the pollution that it puts out? And everyone's like, what are you talking about, right? It doesn't seem logical, right? But when you take ideas like that and possibilities, and then you start wondering, okay, well, how could we make this work? Like, how would this happen?
Or maybe ask if the thing that's being generated by the factory is even needed anymore.
I mean-
and that's where I was going. Like,
Yeah.
we tend to think that we need these things in our civilization and society when we're supposed to be progressing, right? So why these things that are destroying us, sticking around? Let's figure out, better solutions to those problems. Anyway, sorry.
Yeah,
sorry.
no, it's okay. No, I mean, absolutely, and there's all kinds of angles that we can take. But going back to this this factory
Mhm.
issue that they were having, like he made the suggestion, make the put the factory downstream from the pollution that itself is putting out, and no one could wrap their head around it. But as they explored it, what they realized is, hey, we could take our, the way our factory is set up, we could take our input
Mhm.
and have that exist downstream from where the output is put out. And so, like, when you think of it that way, then that kind of revolutionized the way that they were, you know, running, you know, different processes, and then, like, you know, having that kind of an approach ended up being like standard in I think, you know, kind of like Georgia law, not Georgia, sorry, California law. So I mean, it's just it's a way to take normal issues that exist, you know, they're very common, or just things that are very common, just looking at them in a new light.
Yeah. Yeah, different perspective. I know that's one of the things that you and I have talked about recently with traffic. I know I've mentioned here on previous episodes that I used to, you know, get into work around 10 o'clock, 9:30, 10 o'clock, and it was mainly because traffic is just so terrible in the Atlanta area. You know, coming in that late, you know, I just drive right into work, you know, but I wanted to change my schedule. And so now I drive in starting around 6:30, and traffic is just insane. So, you know, I can get pissed off like everybody else does. You know, this is not something I'm being presented with, you know, solving a problem for. But, you know, I'm sitting around and it's like, yeah, why traffic? Like we are the country that created traffic. You know what I'm saying? Like, why can't we solve this traffic problem? And it's kind of where Shane and I started talking about this, you know, over coffee was, you know, let's start thinking of this as a service to drivers, right?
Yep.
This is a service to, you know, companies and merchants and all these people that are involved with somebody trying to get from A to B. And, you know, there are definitely ways that you can solve that problem, but the reaction that you will get when you start talking about how to solve these problems is all of a sudden negative. Like, oh, you can't do it that way, or oh, you can't do that. You can't prevent people from taking left turns, blah, 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 blah. But no, the reality of it is that we can do anything that we want. So anyway,
Yeah.
I am working on a traffic solution. And just trying to, you know, push my mental capacity and mental thinking of, you know, trying to challenge myself with day in and day out as, you know, as I drive in, you know, what could be a new traffic pattern, and thinking of all these different ways, you know, like we have smart traffic lights, we have cameras, we have a multitude of things. Like, why couldn't we take the traffic data that we're getting from our phones, have very inexpensive devices attached to each one of the traffic lights all throughout the country, or at least in high congestion areas, that can basically look and see, you know, hey, how far is this backed up? I know we have sensors that are at traffic lights, but those sensors can only see so far, and then the timing is never correct. So why don't we use the traffic data that we're getting from maps like Google Maps or Waze or whatever, tie that into our traffic system and say, hey, if the crossing road is not yellow, is not orange, then let's wait until it turns yellow or orange to actually change the light, because that's essentially what we're doing. You know, other countries seem to have a lot of roundabouts, which some roundabouts are kind of crazy. Other roundabouts keep traffic flowing. We've created this situation in our country where we've created these floodgates, and we have all this traffic trying to get to one location, which is the city, and we keep like stopping the flow, stopping the flow, stopping the flow, stopping the flow. And we never look,
Stopping the flow.
and we never look to see if all the things channeling into the main canal, how much water is in those canals flooding into the main canal. We don't look at it that way. But if you start looking at it that way and you start saying, we're going to open up the floodgates into this main channel when the water begins to back up into these like miniature canals, then the main canal could just run and let flow happen, you know, at a much greater pace for a much longer pace. So I'm not saying that that's the solution. I'm just trying to say it's just a very creative way to look at it. And, you know, we just don't look at it that way today. But yeah, I do want to go back to, you know, challenges, because I definitely think that there are our own challenges that we face, which is something like, you know, I want to lose 10 pounds, or I want to be a better husband, or I want to be a better wife, whatever those things are. And then there are challenges that are being presented to us that, you know, maybe work related or maybe out of our control. So I think the positive spin that we're trying to put on this here is that don't get discouraged regardless of the challenge. Like if it's your own challenge and it's something that you're trying to solve, you probably have a closer connection to trying to solve that. You just need willpower in order to get through it. But sometimes those challenges where I get pissed off while I'm sitting in traffic. How can I do this? Are challenges that you're being presented at from a work perspective. Take time, back up, understand like what are you being asked to do? Create a story around it. Put down those things that you're trying to solve, and then take a couple steps back, own it, have passion behind it, tell that story, and then come up with your answers and formulate your answers that way, and just have persistence to know that now you're marching towards your solution. Now it's your problem. Now it's something that you want to solve for. And I think it'll make it much easier for you because now this is a task that you want to accomplish. And this is a task that you want to overcome because now you understand the story behind it. You have passion behind it. And when you're trying to sell it to others, it makes more sense. And it sounds like it's coming from deep down inside and it's coming from a place of passion.
Sure.
So I just wanted to make that statement that there are different challenges that we face and there are different ways that we can face them. The main thing here is don't get discouraged when your mind starts going sideways about trying to overcome issues between A and B.
Yep.
So.
No, I totally agree. So I think, not being discouraged, it's a huge part of it. I think changing our perspective on how we see the issue. Do you see it as a big negative problem or a challenge, or do you see it as an opportunity?
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
And then try to work it into your daily routine by training your brain, right? We take thinking for granted, and we forget that it's something that can be constantly improved.
Right.
It doesn't matter if you're 15 listening to this. It doesn't matter if you're 65 listening to this.
Your mind is a muscle. Work it out.
You have to keep working it. And even, I'm telling you, just taking like 10 or 15 minutes a day to do kind of thought exercises, to do puzzles, right? To come up with some sort of technique or habit, to work in every day that forces you to think creatively and look at the same issue or opportunity from different angles. And I think it'd be really beneficial for everyone.
I think so. Well, Shane, let's wrap up this very first. What is this called? It's not called a blog. It's not called a podcast now.
It's a vlog.
It's a vlog. Vlog.
A vlogcast.
Vlogcast. Okay. All right. So
I think I just coined a new term. It's going to change the world. This is how I do it.
Regardless if we're videotaping. I'm showing my age. Regardless if we are, what do the kids call it now?
Vlogcasting. That's what we're going to call it. I don't care what the kids call it.
Videoing or whatever it's called. We will still be producing an audio version of this podcast.
That's true.
So we've been publishing to YouTube, and it's just audio with a screenshot up there. To me, it felt a little ridiculous when we could be filming ourselves and putting ourselves on YouTube. And that way you guys can get to see who we are, you can get to see the different emotions on our face and kind of how Shane and I interact. So we'll publish this. Still looking for feedback. You can always email us at podcast@intentionallypositive.com.
I can't believe you get that right every time. I cannot do.
A lot of practice, Shane. A lot of practice.
I can't ever get that email right the first time.
But check us out on our website. I'll probably post the audio link and then also post the YouTube link as well. We've set up an Instagram account, so if you want to keep track of what's going on with the Intentionally Positive Project, check us out on Instagram. The last episode, I promised that we would be setting up a Facebook group. Haven't done that yet, but plan to do it in the next day or two, so look forward to that. So we'd love everybody's feedback on how the video went, and always looking for topics. And make sure you guys smash. We can say that now, Shane. Make sure you smash the thumbs up.
Do it
on YouTube.
If it doesn't hurt your finger by how hard you smash it, or how much passion was in that click, you didn't do it right.
That's right. So
it right.
this is Brad
And Shane.
signing off.